Welcome back, guys. I trust you have been safe. The value of doctors to society cannot be overstated. Doctors are a pillar of support for various communities, providing health, advice, healing, and ensuring that no matter what the medical condition is, once you see a doctor, you know there is hope to get better. So, what will drive a medical doctor from being the reassuring symbol of recovering from medical challenges to becoming a serial killer who would kill people, including some of his patients, unprovoked, and go on to take their assets to try and sell, bury their bodies, and embark on a whole darkness of serial killing endeavors. This is the true crime story of Dr. Abass Adewele of Nigeria, who has currently been arrested as of September 2022 for the murder of a taxi driver, and then that would set off an investigation which will lead to a chain of several other bodies and victims of his being uncovered. I must inform you that this case is very fresh and is still ongoing in Nigeria, in West Africa. It is therefore very likely that I would be doing several episodes on this as and when additional updates are available. This true crime story takes you on a journey on the facts that have been gathered on this case from its inception to date. If you are ready for this ride, buckle up and let's go. Starting from very humble beginnings in 2013, Dr. Abass Adewele, who then was just Abass Adewele because he was now about to graduate from University of Ilorin, started life after he then graduated. To this point, everything seemed normal and nothing was out of place. A young man has graduated from the university and became a medical doctor and was starting his medical practice and starting life for that matter. Fast forward into 2022, a chain of events would start happening, interlinking, and unraveling later on. So, per the reports from police, it is being said that in July of 2022, Adeyemi was in Nigeria, a suburb town in Nigeria, and then he contracted the services of a taxi driver. I would want to withhold the names of all the victims because the investigations are still ongoing. So Adeyemi contracted the services of a taxi driver, and this taxi driver was with him for quite some time within the days that would follow. He used this taxi driver and his cab for several of the errands and journeys that he had to take. And whilst they were commuting, they struck a chord, they struck a friendship. And it was said that they became friends to the point Abass actually had the taxi driver's number, and the friendship moved on from there, as was established in July 2022. Fast forward to September of 2022. Now, Abass Adewele was in town again, and as was be expected, he called his friend, the taxi driver, to come and pick him up so that he would run his errands with him for a fee, of course. It wasn't free. So, as has happened before, the taxi driver came to pick him from the hotel he was lodging at, and this taxi driver and Dr. Abass set off in town. Per the reports, they went around from point to point, aiding Dr. Abass to go through whatever his business was in town. At a point in the journey, it is reported that the taxi driver told Dr. Abass, whom he now trusted as a friend, that he had some pains in one of his legs. And it was at this point that Dr. Abass Adewele would offer to the driver that, oh, I'm a doctor, I can actually help you get better. So, with that blind trust that this taxi driver had now developed for this doctor, the taxi driver took this statement in good faith, and upon which Dr. Abass Adewele offered to administer a medication in a syringe to help ease the pain in the leg of this taxi driver, who is also his friend. But there was a twist. It is being reported that Dr. Adewele administered this medication through a syringe to this taxi driver, and in just a matter of few minutes, the taxi driver just died right there in the taxi. To conceal the crime, Dr. Abass Adewele is reported to have taken this taxi driver's corpse and hid it in the car, and then subsequently drove off with the car to a nearby town, which he now noticed that, oh, okay, there's nobody around, so I can now dispose of the body. And he didn't put in much effort. He just dumped the body by the roadside and sped off with his victim's taxi. So that was the end of that friendship. But that wasn't the end of the escapades of Dr. Adewele, because he would go on and attempt to sell this taxi. But luck ran out for him, because unknown to him, the relatives of this taxi driver, who had not heard from him for some time and felt it was not the usual per how they were with this taxi driver, had actually gone to the police to report that they suspected something might have happened to this taxi driver. So, with this report in hand, the police had begun a search for this taxi driver. And unfortunately again for Dr. Abass, he didn't even know that the taxi he had stolen had a tracker installed in it. So per the reports, the police were tracking this car with the help of that tracker, and the tracker led them straight to this car, at which point Dr. Abass was subsequently arrested whilst he was trying to sell the car. So it seemed like the story will end there, but as with most true crime stories, there is always a twist. Police were in for the ride of their lives, because it will turn out that this was just the introduction to a serial killer in disguise as a medical doctor who saves people's lives. Now, Dr. Abass Adewele was arrested and taken to the police station. Whilst there, Dr. Abass pleaded that people should allow the police to do their investigation, and that he was pleading with the family of the taxi driver to forgive him, and that he, Dr. Abass Adewele, had killed a friend, and that the taxi driver was his friend actually, and he can show them their discussions on his phone, but that he had killed that friend by mistake. At this point, I believe there wasn't enough grounds to conclude on murder, because arguments could be made that, oh, maybe he was truly trying to help, but maybe, just maybe, for argument's sake, maybe the drug he administered had an issue. Maybe it was expired, or maybe he mistakenly administered the wrong drug. But this was just the beginning. So although he had killed someone, of course the courts would have to decide, but it wasn't that straightforward to determine that this was most likely to be seen as a murder. And this was what Dr. Abass said. In hindsight, I am thinking he was trying to play the innocent doctor who had accidentally killed somebody. But the police are smarter than the criminals think they are, because in as much as he was playing this act, the police were not going to succumb to it. They were going to go step by step per their modus operandi with such investigations. So investigations will start from that point, and even though he had been arrested, it paved the way for another set of investigation to unravel, where this time around the police decided to dig deep into this doctor, because there was actually a past incident involving the death of his girlfriend at the time, and his name had come up, but it didn't come up strongly enough for him to be highlighted as a key suspect. Investigations were conducted again or revisited that case, and when confronted, Mr. Adeyemi would actually admit that he is responsible for taking the life of his girlfriend. It's alleged that he told the police that he was returning from town with his girlfriend, and for some reason they had a misunderstanding in the car, and he hit her head with something really hard, and she succumbed to her injuries and died. After this, Dr. Abass Adewele then threw his girlfriend's body out of the car into a nearby bush and sped off to live his life. He thought he had gotten away with it. Little did he know that he was going to kill somebody again, and that would get him arrested, and investigations ensuing after that arrest would link him back to what he had done previously. So now, one body had now escalated to two bodies. So a pattern was starting. At this point, the police, still resolved and resolute in their pursuit for justice, felt that no, we still need to dig deeper. So let's go to his office, because he indicated that he was of high repute in one of the well-established medical institutions in Nigeria. So the police took him there just to see what was up in his office. When they got to the office, it is reported that the police noticed that the tiles on the floor space had a portion of it laid fresh. You could see that this part of the floor space had been redone, so the tiles were really new as compared to other portions of the floor space. And as would be instinctive to police, they decided to dig that spot and check what was what. Lo and behold, after digging not so deep, they found that it was not just a tiling work redone on the floor space, but rather it was a shallow grave that had been dug and a small coffin put in there, and somebody had been buried there with the body decomposing. Unknown to Dr. Abass, the police had been looking into some patients of his who had mysteriously gotten missing after seeing him, and the husband of one of such female victims had actually reached out to the police again after news of his arrest had come out. It will turn out that the body that was buried in his office was one of such victims who had gone to see him in his office for medical care, but never ever came out. Autopsy reports have not yet been done, so it's unclear how this person died or was killed in that office. But this man was able to identify the dead body as his long-lost wife. So the body count was now 3. And it looks like what people thought was an accidental administering of a drug by a doctor who was loving and happy to help a friend was now becoming a case of a doctor who is actually a serial killer in disguise. But it didn't end there. The plot was still expanding because after digging out this shallow grave, just when police felt that, okay, let's move out of here, let's get this body away, let's start evidence, let's seal off this piece and move on to the next level of the investigation, they saw that no, there were two big dustbins also in a corner at the office. And out of curiosity, they decided to check what its contents were. Lo and behold, there was another dead body in that. This is where the whole thing begins to get sadistic and twisted, because I asked myself, what is going on here? How can this doctor still be sitting in this office and working as though nothing has happened and every day is just a normal day when you've killed two people? Or because this case hasn't been tried yet, I would refrain and say, where you have two dead bodies in your office, one has been buried there and another is in a dustbin sealed off, and you are sitting in there working. You can't say you don't know these bodies were there, and if you knew that they were there, what did you do about it? And why? It's just mind-boggling. So the body count just increased to 4, and that's where it stands at now as investigations continue. And I'm wondering if this is what police was able to uncover in his office. I wonder what they will uncover in his house, because in his house he's going to have his privacy. Obviously he's going to have more floor space, and he's going to have the time to do more damage if he's truly the serial killer he's looking like. Like I said, this true crime story is still playing out. Investigations are still ongoing. These are the facts that have come out from the inception of the investigation to date. We are following this story closely. As and when new details come up, we will put it together and come out with another episode to give you the update. But then, before I leave, these questions are still boggling my mind. If these things were found in his office at the hospital, how did they get there? Where were the other staff of the hospital? I feel like there could be more people to this. These things we are seeing could be instances or symptoms of a bigger thing that we are yet to uncover. Because look at the shallow grave. How was it dug? Who dug it? It will definitely make some noise, and it will be very unusual to have such construction digging going on in an office space. So why weren't any eyebrows raised? How is the administration at the hospital like? How are security installments like? What are even the security installments at the hospital like? And then again, the coffin, who brought it? How was it brought in? Who saw the need to seal the shallow grave and lay the towels over them? This couldn't have all been done by one man, more so a medical doctor who definitely has the experience with the drugs and other things to be lethal, but may not necessarily be of much experience in the artisan aspect of the covering up of the crime. I feel they are accomplices in one form or the other. But hey, my job is to bring you the story as it unfolds. My job is not the one to do the investigation. I leave that to the police, and I know they are able and willing to get all the facts out. Subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Turn on post notifications and stay safe out there.